My name's Scott Carruthers from the Ceramic Tile Education Foundation, and this is?
My name is Rob Roderick. I'm with the National Tile Contractors Association.
Thank you.
And
I need this.
I think we met a lot of you guys. I see some guys from the last programs that we had, but like we told you earlier, we travel all over the country and we teach industry standards right out of the Tile Council North America Handbook, guidelines from the NTCA, and the standards that we find in ANSI. And it's really important that we do our installations according to these standards and guidelines because they decrease our liability and increase our profitability. If we do installations according to these guidelines, we're going to be successful and we're going to be protected with those installations.
Absolutely right. So we want to make sure we follow the guidelines. It's really helpful. And we've got these two young ladies here and two young ladies in the back. You all read much better and comprehend better than we do as guys. And we understand that. So that's why they put man pictures on the bags so that we understand what needs to be done. But we have to follow those guidelines in what we do. So today we're going to look at getting prepped for a self-leveling underlayment, or what's soon to be known as a flowable hydraulic cement underlayment. If you can say that 4 times fast, we'll probably give you the prize. But we've got to determine what we've got, but we have to get ready. So we know that movement accommodation or expansion is going to be a critical part. So in this case, this is a product out of the masonry industry called sill sealer. It's a foam material. We're going to staple that around the perimeter so that when we pour up against it, it'll give us that buffer space in between so that we have an automatic expansion space built in. And the other thing is too, when we put the tile in and the grout in, we still have that automatic space, so we don't have to worry about getting packed in the corner and it causing a binding point for our product. But before I go, how many installers do I have in the audience? Mr. Tim is going to be our guy, so hold it up. We go 1, 2, Tim right here, 3, 4, 5.
Chris over here.
He doesn't qualify.
Yes, he does. He
has to hold both hands up.
He's got a CTI number there.
So we have the opportunity, and where are our pieces, Rob? I've got one that's already in place. So we're going to have 2 prizes for a newer product on the market. The Dust Hog that works on a conventional vac, does a great job for suction, hangs on any bucket. Don't have to worry about it hooking on the rim of the bucket. So we have 2 of these to be given away. So 2 out of 5 is pretty good odds.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you, Matt. So we've got everything ready. We've got our laser set up. We could use a straight edge, but the straight edge is going to be a little bit more difficult. So let's see where we are, Rob, right here. We are at 1 7/8, right where the bucket's sitting. We're 1 3/4. Back here, you ready for this one? We're 2 3/8.
You can see it from there.
We have a significant dip in the corner. So our flowable hydraulic cement is going to do a great job for this. But how many people here, especially the 5 of the installers, now we have 6. Do I hear 7? How many people? I'm sorry, 8. Thank you. So how many people have used the flowable hydraulic cement underlayment, or SLU? Now keep them up, SLU. How many of you use the primer? If you put your hand down, get out.
Boy, he's being kind of harsh today. I think he's needs to eat or something.
The primer is the most critical aspect of this installation. It does 2 things. The primer does increase bond strength to the surface of the substrate, but the other thing you have to go back to high school, it's physics. It increases the flow rate of the product and allows it to spread out more easily, because do you ever see water in a water glass, how the water actually has a curl on it when you fill it clear to the top and it's actually higher than the rim of the glass? That's surface tension, and it won't allow it to break that point until you touch it, and then it will flow out of the glass. That's what happens with this product. It'll flow so far and stop. But we have to have the primer on there to increase that flow rate so that we have a much better coverage. This particular product here doesn't require any adjustment. It's used straight out of the bucket, blend it straight out of the bucket. Some manufacturers have products that require a 1-to-1 cut or a 2-to-1 cut. This one is going to be straight out of the bucket. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Rob, please.
Well, there's some other options too we can have, and those movement accommodation joints around the perimeter of our installation are critical. Scott has over next to him some spray foam. Some guys like to use that. Also, we have different weather stripping type materials that you can put around the perimeter of the room, but we want to make sure and maintain that open gap around the perimeter. In the handbook and on page 430 is EJ 171. It's all about movement accommodation joints, and it tells us we need to keep that gap. So whenever we're pouring this product, we always have to make sure we maintain that. Also, it flows so much, it can be dangerous and get away from you. I can tell you one quick story. We were doing a job in master bath floor, had my guys pouring some self-leveling over a heated floor, and they had closed up everything well and sealed it up except around the toilet. Well, some of that self-leveling went down underneath the toilet flange on the plumbing pipes, dripped down through a ceiling light, and literally dropped down into a shower below and plugged that shower. So we always have to make sure and keep that contained. We have to look for any openings, make sure that it doesn't get out and escape and create problems like that.
How big does that hole have to be?
Tiny.
Tiny. It could be the thickness of a pencil lead, and it will still flow out there, and it continues to flow. It's sort of like sand going through an hourglass. It just continues to flow. We did a demo in a training program a couple of weeks ago where the team didn't seal up all the corners. Really, 100% silicone or another sealant will work out well to seal that joint. They didn't do a good job, so all their product was sneaking out from underneath. Well, the ideal way to do that is take the powder and sprinkle the powder on top. It'll stop it up very quickly, but it didn't stop the leak. The problem was that was our low corner, like this one back here. So the next day when we went to put a gauge porcelain tile panel, the 1 meter by 3 meter panels on top, we had a low spot, so we had to go back and patch it. Shouldn't have had to do that. So it's really critical that you stop up all those gap spaces and make sure that that isn't going to flow out. Timmy's done a great job. Do we have any new installers that have sat down? Anybody that's an installer that has sat down since we started?
That hasn't got a ticket. We got 2 installers here without tickets. We got some great prizes for you.
All right, so Matt's done a great job here putting the primer down. Here's the only short side of this. We've got to make sure that we allow this product to dry properly. We can't rush that. What happens with this product or any other manufacturer's product, if you put this on and then put the, I still say SLU, I'll get it, flowable hydraulic cement underlayment on top of it, this will actually migrate to the top and you'll have a blossom of color on top, so you'll have your gray powder, now a liquid, and this will actually come up through it and blossom on the top. So we want to make sure this is thoroughly dry before we put our product on top, because again, it's going to increase that flow rate so that we get everything covered. Anybody know anything about SLUs, what they really don't do? Can I dump it in the corner and expect it to go to the other end? So it's not complete. That's why we're calling it flowable as opposed to self-leveling, because we all know that it doesn't self-level. So once this is in place, we've got our primer already done. This is critical so that we're not ingesting any dust. We're going to make sure we use one of these to take the dust away, connected to our HEPA filtered vac so that we have all that dust controlled. The beauty of these is my shoes will be clean at the end of the day, because this will take up all that dust that used to just fall on the floor and cause us to have dirty shoes. So
plus the job site's going to be cleaner, and I don't know if any of you guys have heard about the new silica dust laws. They came out in September of 2017, and there's been a lot of people in the tile industry that have gotten significant fines. So we want to protect our lungs, we want to protect our pocketbooks. This is one way that we can do that.
how are you going to protect my pocketbook?
We want to keep you from getting in trouble with OSHA there, all right? Make sure we're taking care of some of that silica dust. Now with these self-levelings, they're different than the thin sets in that they're more complex in their chemistry. And some of the components in these self-levelings are in there in parts per million. So one very, very important part about using self-leveling is making sure that we mix it correctly. So we always want to make sure that we measure the amount of water when we're mixing it. That's a big deal with self-leveling. We actually did some testing out in California where we mixed up some self-leveling and we added 1 cup too much water, more than the manufacturer wanted. We mixed up another batch with 1 cup too little, and we mixed up a third batch according to the manufacturer's recommendations. We let those dry, and we came back the next day with hammers and chisels and screwdrivers, and we beat on it, and it was unbelievable. Unbelievable how much of a difference 1 cup of water can make. So it's very crucial when we're mixing self-leveling to measure that amount of water. This is an SLU kit. It comes with a measuring device in it. It also comes with a variety of poles, and like Scott had mentioned, you know, the word SLU, self-leveling, is kind of a misnomer. This stuff doesn't level itself, and they're working on changing the names. What we need to do is we need to remove the surface tension from that self-leveling in order to allow it to flow. The best way I've heard it described is this: if you can imagine a bead of water that's resting on something and you touch that bead of water, what happens? It spreads out, right? This self-leveling is the same way. When you dump it out, we need to move that material with either a trowel or a rake of some type and allow it to flow properly. It also comes with a mixing paddle that fits the contour of this barrel. And of course, we can mix 2 50-pound bags of self-leveling in this one container. This particular one is really handy because it's on wheels. If you've ever tried to drag around 100 pounds of thin set, I mean, even with an SLU kit, you've got handles and stuff, but this makes it much, much easier. And once you get it to where you want to pour it, you can just turn it over and pour the material out. Also, it comes with some cleats.
Are they designer sandals?
These are to protect your Air Jordans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically you can walk right through the self-leveling and get back. Air Jordan, that's still a thing, and then that's okay. Is that what the kids are wearing? All right, I just want to make sure I didn't want to date myself there. But anyway, yeah, these are terrific because we can pour it and then walk across the room and move some material around and make sure that it's flowing properly like we just talked about.
And Rob, can we use those on every surface?
We got to be careful.
We have to be really careful.
Yeah, you can get these hung up into something and take a pretty good spill. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that's really critical, if we've got in-floor heat, or if we have a membrane, those spikes are really going to be non-discriminatory.
Yeah, punching holes in that membrane.
We poke holes, we're going to perforate that membrane, so you've really got to be careful. You may have to wear a cleat that's flat on the bottom so that we don't penetrate.
And another thing, like he was talking about, in certain concrete boards, once you get these spikes in them and you try to pick your foot up, you can get hung up and take a pretty good fall with them. So you want to make sure and be careful when you're wearing them.
Really what you want to do when you're walking in these, you want to walk like, anybody here remember Herman Munster from this TV show? You actually have to walk this way because if you drag your feet, Rob said you're going to go down. You've done it? No, that's a good thing. You can actually go face first into that self-leveler very quickly. But as Rob said, Rob, may I have that mixer again, please?
Yeah, there you go.
This is significantly different than what you may have used in the past, but this is what is necessary for us to get a good blend. But we also have to use a device that's going to give us a speed that's adequate. Our speed for thin set, anybody want to help me? What's the speed for thin set, maximum?
For most thin sets.
Most thin sets. About 300 RPM. So this one is going to run, this one runs 350, 750, and 1250. So that 50 RPM over top of it is actually the load. So when it's mixing, it's actually going to give us 1200 RPM. Rob's got a different style mixer that has a changeable transmission on it.
Yeah,
we can change it to get that high speed so that we get adequate mix because we only have a short period of time. This product does not slake, meaning we don't let it stand. So we've got to make sure we mix it, get it to the site, and if you're working as a team, you've got to have enough people to mix, transport, pour, and smooth. So you've got to have between 3 and 4 people to get this accomplished. Anybody ever done a self-leveler by yourself? My hand's up, I've done it. I'll tell you, if you want to kill yourself quickly, try to do it by yourself because the problem is when you go back, the bucket is probably now done. So we don't want to lose our tools. We want to make sure we clean up. So we've got it properly mixed to the manufacturer's requirement. Most of them don't have a time frame on the bag. You're going to mix it till it's homogeneous, and once it's blended, then we're set to go. So Rob will run that to the edge. We're going to pour that into the area. We can do away with our laser now because we're already set. So we'll think that Rob is working out. One thing that we've got to really be critical about is a wet edge. Anybody know what a wet edge is? A couple of you? A wet edge means that when, yeah, I know you do. I get it. So what I like to do is, here's our doorway, but my lowest point is at the doorway. So that could be problematic. We've got to make sure that we've got that door dammed up high enough that when that pour comes in, that it doesn't go over the top. So if that's our exit point, we really have to start in one of those two corners. So Rob would work his way in through the door, go to that point and pour, and what we're going to do, you want to work like a serpentine, like a snake, and you want to work that pour this way because you always want to be pouring the new material into a wet edge. So I've had two teams, and this room was as big as you are. Niall, I'm going to be back there with you, and Lyle, your team's over there, and we're going to put Ryan back in that corner. The problem is we'll have a cold joint in the middle, which is now a weak point. And we don't want that to happen, so we would actually say, Ryan, you start over there, you come over there, and then Lyle, you're going to come in right behind him and keep going. And that constant flow of buckets till we get to this point or back to the door so that we don't have a dry edge coming together. We know it's a self-leveler. What's this thing do?
That's a gauge rig. Basically, that just allows us to move some material around and get a general amount around. We do want to allow it to flow, but this is a good way to move the material in the beginning, and after we get it moved and set, we can put on our cleats and come back and remove that surface tension. And the movement that we use, we just barely come across the surface. That's all we're doing. We're just trying to break that tension. And another part about
Are we trying to move it with that?
No, we're not trying to move it. We're just breaking the surface tension.
There's that surface tension coming back again, so we had on the flow of the material, but we're also trying to break the top tension so that that's going to give it even more area to be able to flow out. So gauge rake, now this room right here would be kind of difficult, would you agree? Because we've got almost 2 inches back here in the corner that it's low, so our gauge rake is really going to work just in this general area. We had a high spot right here in the middle, so this is going to work, but when we get back there, Rob, how are we going to figure out how to get a height back there if we can't use our gauge rake?
Oh, well, we're going to allow our product to work. We're going to just allow it to flow back in this
But we
area.
may want to put a pin.
We can do pins. Have you guys? That was another thing I was getting ready to bring up, actually. So you guys how many of you used lippage control devices in the past? Okay. So you know the stands for the lippage control devices. Basically, lots of guys will use those with a double-sided sticky tape and create pins, and then they'll run their laser over it and they cut the pins off certain heights. That way when you're pouring it, you come to the top of the pin, you know you're about in the right place.
And especially back in that deep corner, because the device that Matt just put away, if I pull this and artificially pull the material out of that corner, it's going to be about 5/8 of an inch deep.
Yeah.
And if I pull it away from there, it's not going to flow back by itself.
This is just basically to move the material around. We want to remove the surface tension to let it actually do the flowing to the low spots.
So we've got our product poured, we've got our smoother in place, cleats on because I don't want to walk in the material, so I either spiked or flat cleats. So we've now run the smoother over, and the smoother is not to make it smooth, it's actually that surface tension breaker so that we can get that product to flow that little bit further to get a nice flat surface. So hey, Rob, what should we do? What should we do now? Once we've got the smoother done, I'm going to say, Rob, give me that back. Yeah. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do this one more time.
You can overwork it. Yeah, be careful about that.
Do not try to make it perfect. It will really do its own thing.
Now, Scott,
my wife says I'm the bad guy because I try to make it perfect. Once you've done the smoother, walk away, because you can really overdo it, and to the point where if you pull it this way and you're working along and you sort of lean down, now you've got a low spot. Or you could be pulling it this way, and really here's the way to run this device, is right here. That's your grip, not this, or not this. This is really what we want to do. That's all I want to do, and I just want to drag that across the surface in that fashion. That's all I really need to do. Rob, we have another way to make some patch
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to talk to you about. This is all about horizontal substrate prep. And so that's one way, talking about self-leveling, but we got some other options up here. Hey, we got half a bag of thin set here. Why don't we just...
It's already open, right?
Yeah, why don't we just dump that in the low spot?
We could patch with thin set. How many people here would think patch with thin set would be a great idea? Come on, Kevin, give us a vote. My hand's the first one up. I'll be the first one to admit I've patched floors with thin set.
It's already open, though, you know?
But that is really not a good choice, and we get a much more flowable rate, so we're good. But we do have products there. If you're using a self-leveler, I have asked the manufacturers to do this. Put the liquid product, in this case in a gallon container, and the powder is one unit, and sell it as one unit rather than that powder and this liquid. And the key point is you can't bring the liquid back, because some guys will bring the liquid back and say, I saved $20. That was a bad investment. You want to use both those products. It's almost an A and a B if an epoxy. Wow, could we mix an epoxy without the B? Not work really well, right? So we need both pieces of that puzzle, so make sure you're using both pieces.
We also
what else do you have, Rob?
We got some patch here. NXT patch, cementitious floor patch. So, you know, that's more familiar with the luxury vinyl plank guys and the VCT guys, but the tile guys are getting more and more familiar with it, and very handy to hit low spots. It can go out to a feather edge. It's a great thing to use to fix patch walls and floors. We also have some floor mud here. What a terrific way to make a really, really flat floor. But, you know, we have to have a certain thickness. 3/4 of an inch is the thinnest we would ever want our mud bed, so we got to make sure that all those other floor coverings that we're meeting are going to hit. So sometimes we need a recessed area, or we need to think ahead when we're building stuff in order to use that, but it's a terrific way to make a very, very flat floor.
How many of the installers we have in the audience are from Florida? Do you know what the Miami sandwich is? Do you use it? I hope not.
But she's being honest.
She's being honest. That's okay.
We all start from...
The Miami sandwich is not a good idea. Understood. We all just have to do a little bit better job, and hopefully we can get rid of that situation, because they're using that product. Rob, you said 3/4 is the minimum?
Right, right.
Some people are trying to take that down to a feather edge. It won't work. It'll crumble and fall apart.
Right.
So we're out of time.
Yeah, we are out of time, but if any guys have questions...
We have 2 door prizes. Mm-hmm. Timmy, you've got the numbers? And since you were so helpful, would you please come up and help me? Rob, tell them what we have to give away.
All right, we've got these dust reduction dust hogs. They're wonderful. We use them in all of our trainings. They will keep that silica dust from getting out there and getting in your lungs.
So we're gonna have those as a giveaway for 2 people. So what is your name?
Francia.
Francia. So you're gonna get picked. And by the way, if you pick your own number, you're out of here.
No. then I'll be back and sit down. There you go.
Last 3 are 053.
All right.
There we go.
Let me double check. He's honest.
Wait,
he's honest.
Look at that face. You're not.
I know it.
He's an honest guy.
But everybody wants one of these.
I understand that.
It makes people turn bad. You know what?
Yes, ma'am. Let me just. And by the way, mine's the one that's sticky on the back.
Missing a little corner.
Yeah.
Our second lucky winner is 026.
All right.
All right.
Al, you're going to protect your lungs.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. You've been a great audience. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Timmy. Thank you to TCNA. And by the way, you're it.
Got more gifts to give away.